Hello everyone, welcome to the daily news analysis of the Hindu newspaper analysis contributed by Vishnu IS Academy. Today, let's see the news articles for the day 22nd March 2022. Here are the topics displayed on the screen of today's newspaper. Now let's move on to the first topic. Indo-Pacific should be free of conflict. If you can see the topic here, what is the need of Indo-Pacific nations? In recent times, from the last month ago, we are seeing the Australia and India cooperation and as well Russia and Ukraine war. Right. If we consider the war crisis of Russia and Ukraine, India will also be, there are chances for India also to get influenced further with that war. So that's why our close ally and our close friend Australia is stressing out the point to be stable, to have strong relationships in the Indo-Pacific region. That is the news article for today. So, India-Pacific should be free of conflicts, says Morrison. Who is Morrison here? The Scott Morrison is the Prime Minister of Australia. So, recently, they occurred bilateral annual leaders meeting, right? Bilateral annual leaders meeting, in which the two leaders of two nations, Modi and Scott Morrison, have attended in the virtual summit. In that, they have highlighted the point that to have similar contribution and cooperation and strong strategic partnership with the like-minded democracies. Right? What are the like-minded democracies? Like right now we are discussing, right, India and Australia and some other nations like Japan, etc. and etc. So if we consider the relations of Australia with India, there is one important grouping which is called Quad. Now what is Quad here? Quad means nothing but quadrilateral security strategic relationship. In this we have four nations like US, Japan, India and Australia. Right? So these four nations are seeking a cooperation being in this group Quad. Now what Australia is wanted is that Australia has urged India to provide leadership to Australia within the Quad group. That is one more important point to stress out. Now next point is comprehensive strategic partnership. Now let's see what is the comprehensive strategic partnership. It is nothing but the understanding of friendly nations in specific strategic sectors. Now let's see what are the strategic sectors. Strategic sectors are nothing but the vital sectors. Like for India, if we consider the defense or economy or S&D, like all these sectors would be considered as strategic sectors. So under this understanding, comprehensive strategic partnership between India and Australia, these two nations are stressing on S&D like science and technology, defense and critical minerals, which are necessary sectors for India. And also these are strategic sectors of India, right? These are strategic and vital sectors for India. If we consider some critical sectors of Australia, that is one of those sectors is mineral sector, and we have important relation with that. Lithium is very much important for India. Why? Can you think for a second? Lithium is a very much important resource, mineral resource to be filled with electric vehicles, right? India is in recent days is focusing more on electric vehicles. electric vehicles will run with the lithium batteries, right? So that the lithium exploration in Australia has to be extended further more and more, as Australia is having much more resources of lithium. So if we consider the next topic, a Ukraine peace plan that needs a youth hunt. Can you understand that line? If we consider this editorial section, youth hunt is nothing but he is the former UN General Secretary. So this article is wonderfully written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor. If we can consider the points of this article, he is saying that the war crisis of Russia and Ukraine, like these war crisis situations, were being occurred because of the lack of proper mediator, proper peacemaker between the two conflicting nations. So if we consider that context, Shashi Tharoor, the writer of this article, is saying that and suggesting two issues regarding this issue. Right? If we consider our present UN General Secretary, who is our present General Secretary? Antonio Guterres. So he is not playing an active role to conclude a peace between the conflicting nations. The writer opined that. But if we consider any previous occurrences, any previous instances, like Kofi Annan, our former UN General Secretary, had went to Baghdad in 1998 when US wanted to bomb on Iraq. So he tried in his way to reduce or avoid the war. And if we also consider another instance, that Youth Hunt, another former UN General Secretary, has also tried to reduce or avoid the Cuban Missile Crisis between US and Russia. So like those instances have happened in the past, but not now. But why not now? So that's the trigger point the writer is asking. So what to do now? The problem is this. So what we have to do now? Here, what is the future endeavor? A neutrality clause. A neutrality clause has to be considered and incorporated into the Ukraine constitution. Like if we can see, in Finland and Austria constitutions, there is a neutrality clause. So like that, in Ukraine also, if they are able to include some neutrality clause into the Ukrainian constitution, any other discrepancies cannot be occurred. Just a second. So, and also if Ukraine can give any strong promise, of course, in recent times, in these present days, it doesn't look that it seems to happen. But if Ukraine try to achieve this, if Ukraine try to give strong promise that they will never join NATO, all of the fight will end, right? So that will also be one possible way to stop the war. Okay, next, and also Russia wants a complete remilitarization, right? Removing army or restricted arms. The feasible choice would be this: if Russia able to reduce military arms and army and remilitarize its capacity, so that can also be the feasible choice and option to reduce the war crisis. And also Luhansk and Donetsk. Here the homework for you is try to figure these areas in the map. You may get questions in prelims. They may ask, the examiner may ask the map pointing of these two places. So, giving independence, acquiring independence to Luhansk and Donetsk will also resolve the issue. And also, Moscow needs to concede Ukraine joining in UN. If Ukraine wants to join EU, that point has to be considered very crucially by the Moscow. So, these are the listed points suggested by the writer here, right? You can use all these points in your mains answer very useful way. You can get very nice marks if you can quote all these suggestions as a way forward, right? Now, let's move on to the next topic, realizing the potential of Maitri and Mateship. Again, the topic is related with India and Australia. Here, the Maitri is the Indian word and Mateship is the Australian word, a synonym for the strong friendship, strong relationship. Here, the author is Barry O'Farrell, the Indian High Commissioner of Australia. As India and Australian governments are strong allies, they are highlighting their strong positive points by being participating in the summits and virtual summits and so on and so forth, right? If I see the points here, deepening investments in Australia, India, like in strategic, economic and community ties, will highlight the strong relationships. Like we have seen in the previous article, news article, that the strategic and economic and community ties will develop a strong relationship and is developing a strong relationship between India and Australia, right? And also economic activities of Australia like cyber and critical technologies, maritime affairs, defense ties and economic and quadrilateral cooperation, right? All these sectors are very, very important for India and Australia coordination, right? If we can see, if we can consider any historical connection between India and Australia, India is having tens of thousands of history, right? And Australia also is having so much of very beautiful and important history. So, if we see in that way, both countries are traveling in same way from the million years, Okay, so in that context, Australia has returned 29 culturally significant artifacts to India. And also, as we have seen in the earlier article, comprehensive strategic partnership is underway and is in progress very fastly. And also Australia, India establishing Center of Excellence. It is important. India and Australia is going to establish Center of Excellence where? In Bangalore, to develop the critical technologies, emerging technologies, right? And also Future Skills Initiative, it is also important. Future Skills Initiative by Australia for students seeking education and employment. Right now in India, the huge problem for the youth is unemployment and higher education and affordability to the higher education to most of the people of India. So, to address all these issues, Australia is promising some initiative, which is Future Skills Initiative, to the Indian youth and citizens, right? And also, if we see renewable energy partnership, it is also very strong between India and Australia. If we consider the areas here, the green hydrogen, what is green hydrogen? Which is acquired by the water, just water, environment friendly, right? And this, if we can use this green hydrogen, no emissions, no or less emissions would be produced. So the R&D is being conducted on this, and also ultra low cost solar, unlocking Australian critical mineral. Right now we have example one mineral, that lithium. Right? Like this, India and Australia is having very good relationship. That is called Maitri and Mateship. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic. With the unemployment benefits. Unemployment benefits. What is the biggest issue of India right now? The unemployment, one of the biggest issue of India right now. So to address this, now let's see first, let's see the issues of this unemployment. The unemployment before the pandemic was used to be 6.1%, but now it is going up and up, like 8 and 9 point and something. It is not fixed, that's why I am not giving you the exact figure, but it's raising day by day, very fastly, in a fast manner. So one best approach to it is unemployment relief. It can be given as an example in your answers. Right? In China, what they have done is, they have given unemployment relief to the unemployed. We can consider that point also. And in India, different schemes provided relief. If we get any question that what India is doing to address the issue of unemployment, if we consider that question, the answer is here. What is India is going to do, and what is India is giving reliefs to the unemployment youth? So that under the Employment State Insurance Act, government has to provide 50% cash relief for 12 months and 25% for next 12 months under Rajiv Gandhi Shramik Kalyan Yojana. This is one of the old scheme. Right now also it is in progress. So under this scheme, 50% cash relief for 12 months and 25% for next 12 months. Figures like these are important for your prelims exam. Right? So this is one of such very nice intensive being given to the Indian citizens by the Indian government. And if we consider 2018, the Atal Bimit Vyakti Kalyan Yojana is being implemented, under which unemployed insured persons are provided an allowance at the rate of 50% for 90 days. These figures are also important, please note down. So, the 50% allowance for 90 days would be given under which scheme? Atal Bimit Vyakti Kalyan Yojana. Right. And also under the Industrial Dispute Act 1947. Right. The retrenchment compensation. What is retrenchment compensation here? Listen carefully. If in an industry, if there are employees, they are working very hard and sincerely and with very much discipline, but there occurred some economic crisis like we have seen in COVID crisis, pandemic. So in that context, the employer cannot give work to the employee, but it is not the mistake of this employee. He is ready to work, but there is the crisis in the economy. So that's why this employee has to get some retrenchment compensation. So as retrenchment compensation, 100 or more workers has to be given compensation under the Industrial Dispute Act 1947. Okay. Now let's move on to the next topic. A solution in search of a problem on 10% reservation. here if we can consider the 10% reservation, we can see EWS bill, right? Recently there are occurring some issues on EWS bill. What is EWS? It promises 10% reservation to individuals classified as economically backward, that is those who have an income threshold of 8 lakhs per annum. It is very, very important. I'll tell you why. Why? Because we'll see in the next news article regarding this point. The 8 lakh per annum point is very important. The consideration, the criteria to give EWS quota to a person is considered as 8 lakhs per annum. Now recently Supreme Court is giving some relaxations and some reconsiderations on this figure, so that's why it is important. So like that, under the EWS bill, 10% reservation would be given to the individuals in two areas, in employment and in education. These two are very important in your prelims perspective, right? And the actual implementation of the EWS quota could be challenging as procuring caste certificates could be difficult. Of course, the procuring caste certificates is being difficult. To give a clarity on the EWS quota to a person, and one alternative strategy can be to try and spread the benefit of reservations as widely as possible within the existing framework and ensure that individuals use their reserved category status only once. It is very much important. There are no such rules to consider the reservation only once, but if individual voluntarily use such a reservation only once in his lifetime, the other persons would be benefited very, very much, right? It can be a very good way forward for this issue. Now let's move on to the next topic. Supreme Court to hear petitions on criteria for EWS quota next month. As I have said earlier, the Supreme Court is accepting the petitions from the candidates where the candidates are asking to reconsider the criteria given to consider the EWS quota. So that's the topic here. The 10% reservation is given in education and employment, and constitutionally economically weaker means what? Economically weaker means they are not the people who are those below the poverty line, but they are the people in the low income groups. Just low income groups. They need not to be below the poverty line. Of course, those people can also come into the economically weaker section. So try to understand this point. It is also very important. Now let's move on to the next topic. Less than 1% of oil imports from Russia. If we consider the context here, the war crisis between Russia and Ukraine. If in the world, if there occurs any war, the related nations and their economies would also get affected. If we consider that context, what is the Indian economy? What is the status of Indian economy and what is the influence of that war on the Indian economy? So if we consider that India's major sources of crude are Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Nigeria and US. These are very important, very much important for your prelims perspective. So why I am telling these here? Because the imports from Russia is just 1%, right? So the India is expected to get affected less, and this data is given by PPS, Petroleum Planning and Analysis Cell. There are very much consideration regarding this news article, that imports from Russia may affect Indian economy if we don't take crucial steps to regulate this uncertainty. Right? Now let's move on to the next topic. EPF rate cut. EPF rate cut is based on today's realities, says Finance Minister. Now what is EPF? Employment Provident Fund. Employment Provident Fund. It is the saving fund for employees, and if we can consider here, the EPF is considered for both public and private employees. Both of them can enroll under this scheme. Right? And the EPF returns have fallen to 4 decades low, 8.1% in 2021-22. You can figure out the reasons for that. Maybe the pandemic crisis and economic slowdown and also etc. So, it is the triggering point here. It went to the 4-decade low to 8.1%. Now, let's see what is the Employees Provident Fund. It is a saving scheme and avails employees for tax exemptions. Okay. So, for employees, if they want to apply for any tax returns, the EPF fund savings will reduce their income tax filings. Right? And an industry having at least 20 employees should extend benefits of EPF to its employees. Which employees have to get benefits of EPF? If you get such a question, any industry having at least 20 employees, what is the figure here? 20 employees. They should, that is the mandatory rule. They should give benefits of EPF to its employees. And works under Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. The EPF works under this act and also under the organization EPFO. Employment Provident Fund Organization, which is a statutory body. Right? Now let's move on to the next topic. Now let's see the prelims facts. Right now, till now we have seen some main topics and analytical topics. Now let's see just facts which are useful for prelims. Now I will tell you some specific facts which are helpful for prelims. Why? Because last year we got 2 to 3 questions in sports area. So, of course, you need not focus on that section very specifically, but if you have general idea on what is happening in that sections, you can eliminate or you can answer if you are not able to answer other easy questions. They can save your marks. Right? So, Padma Awards were announced previously. Yesterday, that Padma Award was given to Bipin Rawat along with other prominent persons. Here, he is the first Chief of Defence Staff. Right? And also Padma Bhushan was given to Devendra Jajharia, the Paralympic javelin thrower. He is a javelin thrower. He got 2 gold medals in previous Paralympic Games. Okay, and if we see the next fact, Supreme Court extended deadlines for COVID-19 death compensation. Actually, central government has given 1 month time to apply for COVID-19 death compensation. But the bench of Supreme Court has highlighted that the grieving family would be in a emotionally weaker position, so that they will need further more days to recover from the loss, so that they have to be given 60 more days. So that's how Supreme Court is considering very sensitive points in recent days. We have to notice that point. Then, National AIDS and STDs Control Program, NACP. is being implemented very effectively, and recently it has entered into phase 5. Okay, till now 4 phases were being completed and recently phase 5 is approved, and it is the central sector scheme. What does it mean? The central government would fund the entire cost for this scheme. Now let's see the next point, adaptive tracking. It is a critical term we can see in current affairs. What is adaptive tracking? If we consider ecological and evolutionary transmission, right? Evolutionary means what? Like from ancient times, from ancient humans to present humans, and birds, from birds to amphibians to and humans, like that, and in between dinosaurs would also appear, like that. In evolution there is a sequence. Evolution happens with time, and if we consider the ecological transmission, some environmental changes would occur. In ancient times, the atmosphere and the temperatures of the earth were different, and presently those things were different. So if we correlate these two factors, our experts and scientists say that they doesn't match much. The ecological sequence would go faster, the evolutionary sequence would go slower. So till now there are no such specific proofs for that, but our researchers have concluded with some evidences that these two doesn't match much. But in recent research and analysis, while conducting research on Drosophila melanogaster, it has shown some match between these ecological and evolutionary consequences. So Drosophila melanogaster, it is nothing but the fruit fly, okay, has shown that the pace of adaptation can match that of environmental and seasonal changes. It is. So now here let's see what is the adaptive tracking. It is nothing but the adaptive tracking. This concept is nothing but that, is the continuous adaptation in response to rapid environmental change, right? So you can get terms like this in your prelims exam. Notice that. Then one more sport point is there. New world record in pole vault sport was recorded by Armand Duplantis, and he won some gold medal. One gold medal. It is one new world record, right? These are the news articles for today's class. Try to revise all these points, and let's meet on the tomorrow's session. Thank you.